It was to 17 a.m. The searing pain of labor tore through my body as I lay in a bed at Riverside Methodist Hospital. The faint smell of antiseptics still clung to my closta, same ones I'd worn to identify Jack's body. 10 hours earlier, he'd been killed in a car crash on his way to a fire, leaving me and our unborn child, not yet 34 weeks along. My hands shaking, I dialed my parents. After 4 rings, Marilyn's voice came through, sharp with impatience, the drone of airport announcements, and Tyler's laughter in the background. "Lila, what in the world is this?" In the middle of the night. Gritting my teeth through a contraction, I said, "Jack's gone. I'm having the baby. I need you." A short silence on the line, then her tone stayed unnervingly calm, almost cold. "Honey, Tyler and I are at the airport. He just got promoted to regional sales director, and this Hawaii trip we've been planning for months. We can't reschedule. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just went quiet." She'd apparently forgotten that 3 years prior, after her hip replacement surgery, I'd quit my full-time job to care for her for 18 months. I'd changed her dressings every morning, wheeled her to physical therapy, even skipped my advanced certification exam to become a licensed occupational therapist, all to be there for her. I'd given everything to this family, but when I needed them most, they chose a flight. Jack was a firefighter with Columbus Fire Station 22, working 24-hour shifts. Every time he came home, he smelled of smoke and sweat, but he'd always bend down first to kiss my forehead and my belly. We lived in a small second-floor apartment on Indiana Avenue, $1,200 a month rent. The kitchen was too narrow for 2 people to stand side by side, and the living room window faced a parking lot, but it was ours. I worked at a private clinic called New Life Occupational Therapy. 3 years out of school, I was still paying off student loans, but Jack and I had dreamed of our baby together. We painted the spare room soft gray. Jack found a used crib at a secondhand store and spent an entire weekend sanding and refinishing it. He'd rest his hand on my stomach and say, "Our kid's gonna have the best mom." He was the first person who made me feel like my kindness and devotion weren't weaknesses, but gifts. Yet he'd also seen clearly that my family had been taking advantage of that gift all along. My parents, Dennis and Marilyn, lived in Worthington, a 25-minute drive from Columbus. Dennis was a retired factory supervisor with a generous pension, golfing every Saturday. Marilyn never worked a day in her life. He had always acted like she was the busiest person alive. My brother Tyler, 5 years older, was a sales manager at a car dealership, driving a leased BMW with a wife and 2 kids. To everyone else, he was the perfect oldest son. But only I knew he never truly gave anything. When our grandmother was on her deathbed, he visited for only 40 minutes. During Mom's 80-month recovery, he showed up just 3 times. Each time with a half-hearted gift hand, Marilyn gushed to everyone. "Tyler's so thoughtful. Mia bathed her, changed her dressings, tended to her incisions, drove her to therapy every day, sacrificed my job and my exam. All I got were 3 lazy thank yous." Jack once warned me, "They're used to you giving. One day you'll need them, and you'll see how they really are." I didn't want to believe him, not until Jack died, and I lay alone in that delivery room, finally waking up. The day Jack left, the sky was cold and gray. He left for his shift at 6:15 p.m., kissed my forehead, and whispered, "See you in the morning." It was the last time I saw him. At 8:45 p.m., an unknown number called. It was Captain Carter from the fire department. He told me Jack had been hit by a truck running a red light at the intersection of Maurice Road and Carr Road. He died instantly. I drove to the hospital in a daze, identifying his body, my fingers brushing his cold hand, my mind replaying him asleep on the couch after shifts. All the plans we'd made. Right as I signed the death identification papers, contractions hit. I was rushed to the delivery room alone. In the delivery room. Nurse Dorothy noticed I had no one with me. She didn't ask questions. She just pulled a chair beside me and held my hand tight. 4 hours later, Eli was born. He weighed only 5 pounds, 7 ounces. Premature, he was immediately taken to the neonatal intensive care unit. For the next 11 days, I traveled back and forth alone between my apartment and the hospital, sitting by his incubator, watching his fragile breaths, clutching Jack's Thinks' wedding band, a faded fire department t-shirt. During those 11 days, my parents were vacationing in Hawaii. Not a single phone call. Just one text from Marilyn. "Hope you're doing okay. Maui is absolutely stunning." I took a screenshot Not for revenge, just to remember the coldness. At Jack's funeral, firefighters from Station 22 stood in dress uniform, carrying his flag-draped casket. Nearly 200 neighbors, co-workers, and friends came to say goodbye. Not one member of my family showed up. Their flight had been delayed 6 hours, but there were other flights they could have taken. They never tried. After the service, I signed the guest book alone, staring at pages of unfamiliar names. The last flicker of hope inside me died. The next 4 years were the hardest, yet the most transformative of my life. Jack's life insurance and line-of-duty death benefit allowed me to pay off my student loans and buy a small 3-bedroom house, giving Eli a stable home. Our neighbor Mabel, a 62-year-old widow, showed up on moving day with homemade brownies and offered to watch Eli whenever I needed. Captain Carter visited us every month. By the time Eli was 3, he called him Uncle Mike. Nurse Dorothy met me for coffee often, helping me through countless sleepless, broken nights. My coworker Hannah became my best friend, always rushing over when I couldn't sleep at midnight. I retook my advanced occupational therapy certification exam. This time, I didn't sacrifice it for anyone. I passed and built a solid career at the clinic. When Eli was 3, he looked up at me and asked, "Mommy, do I have grandparents?" I held him close and said softly, "Some family is born into you. Some family you choose. We have lots of chosen family." He nodded, still a little confused, then wrapped his arms around my neck and said, "I like our family." In that moment, I knew I had stepped out of the shadow of the past and found real warmth. After 4 years and 7 months of silence, Marilyn sent an email with a subject line, "We need to talk." No greeting, no apology, only that Tyler's marriage had fallen apart. He'd lost his job, Dennis had a heart stent put in, and she was exhausted. She told me to come home and take care of them, ending with, "Family is supposed to take care of each other." Calls and texts followed. Tyler reached out to me for the first time, his voice desperate, saying, "I need you, sis." He never mentioned Jack, never asked about Eli, as if those 4.5 years had never happened. I didn't refuse right away. I put together a folder, text records from when I'd cared for Mom after her surgery, the screenshot of our late-night phone call the day Jack died, a photo of the funeral guest book, a list of neighbors who'd brought me food during those first lonely weeks, everything proving how much I'd given and how little they'd cared. I picked a neutral coffee shop to meet them. When we sat down, my parents looked much older. Tyler had lost his swagger, his eyes tired. Marilyn spoke first, accusatory. "Lila, you've been avoiding us all these years. We don't know what we did wrong." Dennis agreed. "We're getting old. You can't just abandon us." Tyler stared at his lap. "I know I wasn't there for you before, but I'm really stuck now." I opened the folder calmly and laid the evidence on the table. 3 years ago, you texted me every day to drive you to therapy to stay overnight with you. I quit my jobby, gave up my exam, and cared for you for 18 months. The day Jack died, I was in labor alone, and you said Hawaii couldn't wait. You could have made it to his funeral, but you chose your vacation. For 4 years, you never once asked about me or Eli. Now that Tyler's in trouble, you remember I exist. Marilyn paled. We didn't have a choice back then. There's never no choice. Only not caring. I cut her off. I gave this family everything I had. You only remember me when you need something. I have nothing left to give you. I closed the folder, stood up, and left without looking back. Sitting in my car outside, I finally cried not from sadness, but relief. Later, Marilyn sent a handwritten letter full of excuses and justifications, still begging me to help Tyler. I put it in a drawer and never opened it again. That Christmas, Eli and I weren't alone. Dorothy brought a roasted turkey. Uncle Mike gave Eli a toy fire truck. Mabel brought apple pie. Hannah bought matching pajamas for the 3 of us. We sat around the table, sharing stories about Jack. Eli ran around the living room, imitating fire truck sirens, his laughter filling the house. Today I'm 36, a successful occupational therapist, a mother to Eli, and surrounded by people who truly love me. I finally understand. Family is not bound by blood. It's the people who show up when you're broken, who stay with you when you're lonely, who give without taking. The hurt I endured became my strength. I learned to love myself and to choose people who deserve me. If anyone out there, like me, has been overlooked and taken from by their family, left alone when they needed someone most, please remember, You don't have to keep giving. You don't have to shrink yourself. You have the right to choose your own family, to be loved and cherished. Real love is always mutual. It's never just one person running toward a family that won't meet them halfway.